Glad to stay with us. The number of people affected by hunger globally rose to as many as 828 million in 2021, an increase of about 46 million since 2020 and 150 million since the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, according to a United Nations report that provides fresh evidence that the world is moving further away from its goal of ending hunger, food insecurity and malnutrition in all its forms by 2030. As this report is being published, the ongoing war in Ukraine involving two of the biggest global producers of staple cereals, oil, seeds and fertilizer, is disrupting international supply chains and pushing up the prices of grain, fertilizer, energy, as well as ready-to-use therapeutic food for children with severe malnutrition. This comes as supply chains are already being adversely affected by increasingly frequent extreme climate events, especially in low-income countries, and has potentially sobering implications for global food security and nutrition. Now, from its face value, the recent declaration by the President of the African Development Bank, AFDB, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, that the bank had decided to shore up Africa's food security with a $1.5 billion Africa Emergency Food Plan in the wake of the Russia-Ukraine conflict is a welcome development. However, analysts agree that this plan will only make the desired impact in Nigeria if such an effort is complemented by a decisive policy to tackle debilitating issues like insecurity, infrastructural gaps, and low yields by farmers. For further analysis, we are joined by Mayokun Ilo, who is an economist and public affairs analyst. He joins us virtually. Hello, good to have you join us today, Mayokun.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Good morning to you.
All right, thanks for joining us. Mayokun Ilo. Yes, okay. Looking at this particular report, let's talk about this now. Now, the latest State of Food Security and Nutrition report actually shows the world is moving backwards in efforts to eliminate hunger and nutrition. Now, that's a sad place to be to start with. And this is according to a UN report that shows that the number of people affected by hunger globally has risen to, or let's say, rose to 828 million in 2021, and then an estimated 45 million children under the age of 5 were suffering from wasting. Now, wasting is the deadliest form of malnutrition, and it increases children's risk of death by up to 12 times.
I think I lost you there.
Okay, so I was talking about something. You said you lost me there, right? Yes. I was talking about the reports that we have, talking about the fact that, well, according to the report, it shows that 828 million more people are hungry. And not only that, it also talks about the fact that an estimated 45 million children under the age of 5 were also suffering from wasting, which is the deadliest form of malnutrition, where a child has the propensity of, dying maybe 12 times even more than what it probably would have been. It increases children's risk of death, by up to 12 times. And not only that, 149 million children who are also under the age of 5 had stunted growth and development. This is also due to a chronic lack of essential nutrients in their diets. Now, how does this make you feel, these figures, this data? If you can hear me, I was asking you. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, please.
I think aside the fact that we are all human beings, the fact that the large proportion of these numbers come from Africa is a frightening factor. I think in the first instance, we haven't been.
I mean, I guess we're having issues connecting with him or hearing what he's saying. That's a connection issue, and I hope that we'll be able to hear him very soon or connect with him very soon. But of course, we are looking at the report by the United Nations that talks about the fact that 828 million more people are going hungry. And not only that, the fact that 45 million children are, going through a whole lot in this regard is also something we need to pay attention to. And we need governments at all levels, we need individuals, we need companies, stakeholders, we need everyone to really be a part of this to address this particular situation, because it's something we do not want to continue. Because, I mean, we have a plan which is supposed to help end hunger by 2030. But unfortunately, it feels that all the successes that have been recorded so far, you know, all of those have been washed away by the fact that even people are becoming even more hungry. And some persons, well, some analysts to a very large extent are saying this has something to do with the Russia-Ukraine crisis. Please go ahead if you can hear me, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay.
I think the fact that Africa is receiving the brunt of the global crisis is something that is significant, not only for the government, but also for all our policies over the years. If as much as 9.8% of global population is having to contend with hunger in the year 2022 with all advances.
All right, so we're looking at talking about the fact that, well, to a very large extent, Africa is probably the one that's suffering this particular issue the most. And we're getting to the point where we'll probably... Okay,
but when you look at food, we eat hard, you know, as it were. Between 2020 and 2022 that we are in now, about 150 million.
Please go ahead. I can barely hear you. If you can hear me, please go ahead.
We are the largest eat.
All right, Mr. Mayokun Ilo, if you can hear me, please stand by. We'll take a break now, and when we return, we'll continue this conversation. Stay with us, don't go away.
Like to switch to phone.
All right, welcome back. We still have with us Mayokun Ilo, and we are looking at the global food crisis. Well, you were talking about how that Africa is greatly hit by this. Please go ahead. Mayokun, if you can hear me, please go ahead. All right, I guess that's still connection issue. Well, if you can hear me, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. If you can hear me, I think what we need to do now is to repurpose our focus on our Greek. The issue of insecurity in the country is something that is a cause for concern for everyone around the world. The problem of Russia and Ukraine is here to stay with us, at least in the foreseeable future. So it's up to us now, within the time frame, the short time frame that we have, to begin to look at how to source alternative food supplies and how to produce everything that we can produce internally. The future of the country is at stake, because when you have malnutrition, at least among the weakest of the weak kids, those between 0 and 5 years old, if you don't address it, you are looking at a lifetime of issues in terms of malnutrition and the rest of the things that come with being severely malnourished. So as it were, I think government needs to put its acts together, focus, and maybe create and approve more resources for use in agricultural related endeavors, and make sure that at least in the northern part of the country, the focus is put on making sure that people have enough to eat, whatever the needs may be. Provide security for the farmers so that they can go to farm and be able to provide whatever it is they do for the citizens.
But I think it's a good one that you've already delved into agriculture and how that it's a viable option, really. But now let's do this. Let's look more specifically at Nigeria now. Apart from the impact of the Russia-Ukraine war, additional factors that are worsening the food prices in the country include heavy reliance on food imports, high import bills, high inflation, a high debt burden, climate risks, and even civil unrest. Now, you may want to excuse the Russia-Ukraine war because it's something you've already talked about, that it's something that's going to be with us maybe until the war ends and all of that. Now, the question is, how did we get here? How did we get to that point where we rely so much on importation? How did we forget about agriculture, knowing how that, I mean, to a very large extent, Nigeria was doing well with agriculture. Talk about cocoa, talk about some produce that we were exporting, even palm oil. These were things we were doing, and these things were earning us enough foreign exchange and all of that. How did we get to this point now?
Well, the simple answer there is that we found oil, and we chose to be lazy. We chose the free money instead of having to spend time on the farm. All we needed to do was to sit back, bring in some foreign companies to come and explore for oil, and if they got lucky, they shared the petrodollars with us. So I think as that is, as simple as that is actually what happened. Year in after year, decade after decade, we got lazy, we got we got convenient, we got lazy, we got you know, everything was coming to us as if we didn't have to work for it. So everybody went to sleep, and everybody was divided depending on the money from the center. In those days, we had a regional system, but with the unitary government and data democracies, we began to share from the federation account, and everybody was just waiting for the month to end. Go to Abuja, all the accountant generals and governors of the states will go there, share the money, take it back to the state. And the infrastructure began to lag behind. If you are in Lagos, you discover that over the past 3 or 4 days when we had rains, we saw the effects of ordinary rains in Lagos. People were saying Lagos is just like 2 meters above the sea level. I've been to Holland. I've been to Amsterdam. Amsterdam is practically living below sea level.
Please, if you can hear me, please go ahead. But he was talking about certain issues that we probably haven't been able to address in Nigeria, talking about laziness. And when he mentioned laziness, I wanted to ask, laziness on the part of who? The people now or the government? If you can hear me, please go ahead. Okay, now, you know, I was wondering, laziness on the part of who? Is it the government or the people? How is laziness a factor here? And then if you say laziness, don't you have a government? Isn't the government visionary? Isn't the government thinking about years to come? Why should laziness be the reason why a government, a country, a nation is going through all of this? Please go ahead if you can hear me.
Well, when I say laziness, I don't mean physical laziness, although it's also part of the...
Okay, if you can hear me, please go ahead. He was talking about laziness, saying that it's not the physical laziness. I'm sure by the time he's back with us, he'll be able to expatiate on that particular thought. Please go ahead if you can hear me.
More of intellectual laziness. It's the laziness in drafting a policy, in laziness of thinking of the next 50, 100 years for the country, where we are more concerned. In those years, we used to have rolling plans covering 4 or 5 years at a time. Now, the government can barely think about the next 6 months. They don't even know what is going to happen next week. That is why you see terrorists and what have you, rampaging through the streets and killing people. That's why you see storms that is just 3 days old of rain coming in and throwing everything up in tatters in our society, because government is not ready to prepare to plan for the next 20 years.
All right, well, very quickly, I would like us to move specifically to, addressing these challenges, addressing these issues. I would like you to walk us through what the government, the federal government that is doing to address this impending crisis. Because, I mean, it's not new now. It's something that everyone has come to know. It's something that everyone already understands. So what is the government doing to address this particular issue? Because we have several reports still alluding to the fact that there is an impending crisis, and we can see that has even started. Now, what's government doing? How is government addressing this issue?
Well, government will never tell you that they are not doing anything, and I know for whatever is what that they are doing something. But whether what they are doing is enough to avert the impending danger is another matter entirely. Only time will tell. But I know that there's been some relationship with the IMF. There's been some relationship with the food and agricultural organizations. I know UNICEF is also in the country, sustaining the largest operation against malnutrition they have all around the world. So we are doing something, but whether it's enough, I don't trust external forces to help us solve our internal problems. So until government rises up and takes this as a holistic problem, focuses on the problem of insecurity, and make sure that those who have the land, the arable farms to farm, are able to go to farm unmolested and not at risk of their lives being lost in the process. So until government is ready to do the needful, the problem, the danger will keep locking on our heads. I just hope that the government is awake to its responsibilities. Only time will tell. Your thought is as good as mine on that.
All right, thank you so much for your thoughts. In parting now, I'd like you to comment on this. That's the AFDB, the African Development Bank, that decided to shore up Africa's food security with a $1.5 billion Africa Emergency Food Plan. And of course, it's in the wake of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. How far do you think this will go in addressing this crisis?
I think it's a step in the right direction. AFDB has always been a friend of Africa. It was targeted to help alleviate the suffering in Africa in its foundation. So if they are making efforts towards doing that, I think it's a good thing. I also think the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is now. The help cannot come, the investment cannot come early enough. So I welcome it, and I hope that the funds being put to use will be judiciously utilized for the interest of the masses and for the interest of those who are most at risk at this point. So if it comes, at least it delays the evil day for us, or even keeps it at bay in perpetuity. So it's a good thing for us.
All right, thank you so much for coming on the show and for sharing your thoughts with us.
You're welcome.